The first Kickstarter, which I kind of in preparation for today, I was looking at, where we saw the individuals with disabilities challenged during the pandemic, and the virtual learning was quite an adjustment for a lot of our students, for a lot of our families. We saw the pros and cons of it though, right? So at Disability Rights Texas, we did see some students were struggling virtually. Some students were not able to access their resources, their services, inability to log on, stay on a computer is asking a lot for some of the students. While as on the other side, on the positive side, so many of our students were more successful online because they were able to focus on the academic part of it, which of course made the parents very happy. The students became more confident in themselves. They weren't afraid of getting in trouble because they were safe at home. And so many of their academics actually surpassed. So we saw the pros and cons, right? So a lot of the struggles were just accessibility issues that a lot of the time we were able to assist with getting the hotspots or accessing in person on a smaller scale when appropriate. So that's kind of what we saw, was the accessibility was one of the biggest things for us.
I think parents were tickled pink that they could be involved in their kids' education. They saw what teachers were saying. They saw how their kids were reacting to it. Mm-hmm. So that was my plus side of the challenge, where parents are normally left out of the loop.
Yeah. And I think that it gave parents and teachers kind of a new perspective, like an appreciation for one another, because my mom is a teacher. And so it's like, okay, so I'm teaching and she teaches pre-K, right? So there's little guys. Mm-hmm. And so they had to go virtual during the snowstorm. And she's like, it was great because the parents and I were able to communicate, but also the parents were like, oh my goodness, you do a lot, Miss Crawford. And I said, yeah, even 4-year-olds do a lot, huh, Mom? So I think that appreciation, granted, in some cases it wasn't as much as we would like, but definitely an appreciation for the importance of both roles and parents being involved in the education of their students, because they were able to hear what they were doing and hear kind of how their child was interacting with other children and interacting with the teacher and what their struggles were so they could help them. And I liked that a lot.
And just things like sitting in their chair. I was tickled. My daughter's a CPA, very structured, and her roommate is a first grade teacher. And so she's watching the Zoom go on inside the apartment, and the kids climbing up on the desk and waving at the teacher and getting their faces close to the camera. And she's like, oh my gosh. And it's like, yeah, our complaints have gone down right now because discipline is not an issue.
Correct.
But she's going, it should be, Mom. You should see those kids. So I was glad she got to see that point of view, how hard her roommate works.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and a lot of the parents, they say, I see a different perspective of my child, right? They know their child, but like in interacting with other students, yeah, the discipline has gone down or the behavior complaints have gone down.
The physical complaints.
Physical, yeah. Right. Yes. And like I said, some of the students being at home because which socially isn't the best what we want, right? They're removed from that social, but on the other side, then they also don't have those triggers that's allowing them to excel academically. So we don't have the issues of regression in a lot of the cases because they are able to focus and they're not being pulled apart or being suspended and, those types of things. So there's definitely pros and cons. And I think we've been able to learn a lot about the true importance of individualization of those IEPs, right?
Oh, amen.
That's truly, that individual education plan is like, yeah, that's not going to work for this student, but let's be creative, flexible.
That's a lot of our complaints right now, is that what's working for this kid is not working for this kid. And it's like, well, it's not supposed to. It's okay if you change it. And they're not willing to. I've seen IEP plans that just say, okay, if we go virtual, this is how it's going to be handled. And it's exact same for every single kid.
Yeah. The contingency plans. And I'm like,
the contingency plans.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And and so a lot of the parents do, they ask, can I ask for things? And I said, absolutely, you can ask. You can ask for, maybe more counseling services. Granted, when they're in person, maybe they only need it once every 3 weeks, maybe they need it more frequently because they are lacking that socialization. A lot of the schools I've been happy with, honestly, have been willing to, but the ones who are unwilling to, they make it very difficult. Even with representation, they make it very difficult for the parents, and that's probably the ones you're getting.
Well, the one I'm struggling with right now is actually a virtual school, but why, they didn't identify the child as special ed, transferred from someplace else. Well, he didn't need it. Okay, he's failing all his grades. He's, nobody told him he was special ed. Where are the questions you're supposed to be asking? And mom said that you should have known. Yeah, they should have known.
They should have
There's
known.
lots of flags out there.
Yep.
So
child find. Child find's a real thing, guys.
That and FAPE.
And FAPE, yep.
It's educating kids in the way they should be educated.
Yep. Oh, and I love that, we were speaking about our Spanish speakers. Like my parents, they know IEP, they know FAPE, and they know child find, all in English, because I'm like, that's child find.
Yes.
And see a child find, very clear. This is the obligation. So.
And the parent I talked to yesterday was, like you said, FAPE, IEP, knew that right down the line. I said, we can provide translations of all of this. And she goes, no, I really don't read Spanish either. And it's like, oh, not English, not Spanish. And
yep.
Okay, talk to me. We'll get it done one way.
Yep. Yeah. And we talk about the accessibility, of the parents, and especially with the Spanish speaking. A lot of the work early in the pandemic was actually dealing with my language learners, was homework's coming home in English. Parents don't speak English. They don't know what the packet is saying. But then the teacher's like, well, why aren't you completing it? Well, my child is 5. I don't know what you want me to do. And so the access to bilingual or to a coach, and, asking for those supports as well. Like, don't fail the child just because the parent doesn't speak English. So we did a lot of that. There was a lot of successes with, growing the language learners resources during the pandemic, because I think it made it a little bit more level ground, right? This is what the parent needs. This is why they need it. The teacher has an assignment. How can we have the parent assist in the assignments? And sometimes it was as simple as just translating the topic or the instructions. Write your name 6 times, something like that.
One of the things we've been able to get across to parents is the SPED text program we have. And they're in 37 languages. So if you need something translated, it's not on the teacher. It's not on the, I've actually had 3 Arabic complaints. That's okay. We got this. We can give it to you in your language. We can go. Yeah. So it's like you talked about resources, letting them know there's something out there that'll do it for them. You don't have to recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
Ms. Diaz, I feel like we're talking over you. What have you found?
One of the things that our parents really liked was being able to see, kind of like what Angel was saying, what is really going on at school. For our early kiddos, ECSC, they said, I don't get any information about what's going on in their day. They say he's just doing good. And then they actually saw, and then they saw that none of the work was modified. And so the lack of individualizing the work, like Angel said, it's really eye-opening. And as a parent of a child with an IEP, I myself was like taking my notes, like, this is not at her level. She can't do that. I need it modified. I'm sorry. I am modifying, like, for now, because we're all learning, but I shouldn't have to modify it because I'm not at the school modifying.
Yeah, that's not your job to do.
Right.
But you're a mom, so you do whatever job is pushed across your plate.
And the parents that had to be like the one-on-one aide that had to sit with them in front of the computer, but they also had other children, and they were, letting the younger ones just kind of sit in front of the TV so that they could be this, and I mean, again, as a parent, I completely understood. It's like, wow, so much more appreciation for the school staff. And, like, this isn't really what her IEP says. So
that was what I hoped was not happening, but the stuff in the IEP wasn't actually being implemented. And in your child's case, it was not. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, some of the parents that,
Ah.
I mean, once
That
I
you did.
brought forward my pages of notes, and then of course she went back in person as soon as she could in September. I didn't have a problem with her going in person, and she's been going in person since September because she was one of those that like you mentioned, the
needs the
kids are all like
peers.
hanging off the couch with their
Yep.
feet up in the air.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, because some of my parents, for various reasons, they, opted for virtual all year. They're not even wanting to go next year. And I'm like, we'll see what happens,
Oh, yeah. one step
But
at a
so
time.
many of the parents I see they became the one-on-one aid, right? They aren't able to do their job. They have to quit their job. They had to modify their job because they're sitting there. And so one of the things that I've seen in more recent ARD meetings are the virtual teachers are like, this student is doing great. They're excelling, right? And I'm like, that's great. Mom's right next to him all day, every day, helping with the math. Once that computer's off or the monitor's off, they're there working. So yeah, I'm sure he's doing really well in math because mom's right there.
So how can we duplicate this when they come back to school?
I mean, part of it is, mom and I talked to parent about it. I was like, Mom, you're doing what the paraprofessional should, because the IEP calls for one-on-one time. The IEP calls for these things, but mom just stepped in because you do what you need to for your kiddos. So we said, well, this is what we've been doing. We'd like to include it in the IEP moving forward. This is how we'll move. This is how we'll continue with that success. Not 100%, we want least restrictive, but some pull out time. This is what this child needs, but he loves his inclusion time. He loves going to the general education class and learning the science and the math. So definitely there's that balance that we have to continue to advocate for.
I think it also makes parents an active participant instead of sitting back and letting teachers talk about what happens in the classroom. Now they can say, when I was working this, when he was on Zoom, when he was, so they've got something to share now, rather than the intimidation of the teacher knows it all.
Yep. The ARD meetings have changed significantly, which I think honestly for the better in most cases, thankfully, because the parents do have a voice. They are seeing face to face what the child is doing, struggling with, and sometimes the camera's on and sometimes it's off. And when the camera's off, they are having a meltdown. They are stimming. The teacher's like, no, they haven't had any issues. Well, actually this weekend, here's my journal, right? We were like, write a journal, bring it to the ARD meeting. So the ARD meetings, I think the parents have a little bit of like strength. Now they're like a little bit more confident. Which I love.
And just the fact that it's on Zoom and recorded. Now I'll tell you, as a complaint investigator, it eats my lunch because I'm watching 2 and 3 hour ARD meetings. And I have to, what'd they say? Let's rewind. Okay, what'd they do? Oh, wait, they promised this, but it didn't get in the document. No wonder they're upset. So it's killing me, but
yes.
I think it needed to be done. It's a checkpoint.
Absolutely.
I'm still hearing about districts that say they cannot have the parents sign over Zoom and they don't share any documents. So they get verbal, okay, mom, you agree? Okay, we're gonna sign for you. And mom's like, but I didn't agree. I said I needed to take my 5-day. The whole, like, why can't they share their screen? Like, to most of the ARD meetings that I've been to, they are sharing the documents, and most of them that I go to, I sign over Zoom. So
I've had the ability to sign over Zoom. I think in rare cases, if you're signing on a phone, Zoom limits you somehow. But in those cases, we have been able to, parent, can you email it to me? Can you come in? Some parents are willing just to go in so that they can get the copy of the IEP. And we talked about, like, they said it during the meeting, but it didn't make it into the IEP. A lot of the parents have been very hesitant though to sign because you're saying all of these things, and granted it's recorded, but what's actually being implemented, and they want to see the document. And so the ARD meetings, yeah, I've had some that are like 7-8 hours, no joke. I'm like exhausted. I'm said, okay, let's go through the accommodations. You said you added it. Let me see it. And then it's there, and then the parent will sign. But we have to almost go through it twice because, oh, we'll add it in. Show me where it's added in. So yeah, hopefully you don't get any of those complaints that are like 8 hours.
Obviously, you're earning your pay because you are sitting there for 7-8 hours, so it doesn't come to me.
Yeah.
I personally haven't got those, but the problems I see are in the smaller districts who
Mhm.
may not have the technology, or charter schools who don't have staff who understand technology.
Mhm.
If I had to sit and hold a meeting in Zoom and set it up, I would be struggling. Now, by this time of year, come on, people, you need to figure it out.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
been a
can
year,
see-
guys.
Yeah,
That's what I say.
I can see how it was a struggle last year.
Mhm. Yeah. And one of the things that we've, because we do at least advocate for like collaboration. So much of the discussion is like, I know it's frustrating, but let's work together. It's understandable. I didn't know how to set up a Zoom meeting before this. I had to learn. So the schools had to learn. They're juggling a lot. Let's be patient. And then it's like, it's been a year now. I think we should know how to do it.
We've got a summer coming up. What technical training are you going to get?
Yes.
A lot of things that we'll recommend that the districts work on how they're going to fix that process if
Mhm.
they're not working with them.
Yes, absolutely.
We had a person in the room and now she's gone, so.
Mhm. Maybe we scared her off. Uh-oh.
We probably did. It's like, oh my God, disability rights, they're scary. Oh wait, that was when I was in the district. Never mind.
I was like, they don't really like when I go to meetings. I mean, I think I'm a friendly person. They don't like when I go to the meetings as much. They're like, Ms. Crawford, is this going to be a 4-hour meeting? It doesn't need to be.
That's up to you.
That's up to you.
Do everything I say. No.
I know it's not legally required that you give me a draft before, but if you do, I can review it with parent, and then we'll just tag what we have issue with, and then we can get through this. So it's not the law, but I like to encourage best practices maybe.
And some of them may have it in their procedures that they give a draft. Well, then they have to give it.
Yeah.
It didn't say, well, I'm not required to do that. Well, according to the procedures you set forth, you do.
Yeah.
I mean, you set yourself up for that one. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, in a lot of my cases, they are with the larger districts who they already kind of know, but the smaller ones are, a lot of it, I take the opportunity to educate. And here's what would work better.
yeah, and I really don't think districts intend to harm.
No.
It's, I didn't know. Okay, well, let's work with that then.
Mhm.
So, and we'll get reports where we ask the district to do a narrative about what happened, and they'll bleed. Well, we didn't know, and we did this because nobody told us. And it's like, okay, well, we're still going to cite you and fix it. And thank you for bleeding.
Yeah, one of the things that I have been pleased with is that I've been asked, or parents have asked the schools to take a training or go to a presentation that Disability Rights puts on as an attendee. And I recently did one with TCDD for rural communities, specifically for educators and administrators. And so I had a lot of the rural communities, right? We were talking about the smaller school districts. And so we were able to answer their questions. This is what it is. Here's my contact information, technical support. We're not the bad guys. If I show up at an ARD meeting, I'm not there to file a complaint. I'm just there to.
Hopefully not file the complaint.
Yeah.
Did administrators go?
They did. I was surprised. I had several special education directors. I had assistant district attorney, superintendents. And I had quite a few educators and diagnosticians.
Yeah, I find most of the gaffes happen when principals are left in charge or not in charge. They leave it to the special ed teacher.
Mhm.
And You know, we just click the boxes.
Mhm.
I hate software programs for IEPs. Absolutely hate them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm old school. I was a diagnostician. I was a special ed teacher. I was a special ed director. Write it out. Then you know what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
But those days are gone.
And now I'm like, was that checked
Yeah, look at you
correctly?
laugh at me. I'm that old.
No, it's more of like, because I see it, I'm like, yeah, I guess maybe I can see how it makes it easier, but it's also like, well, that box was checked. You're the drafter of the
Right?
document. So are we not providing this or are we providing it? And
It's
so
like, you
sometimes
checked
that's
it here. Oh, I didn't mean to. Too late. You
but it
checked.
says you're providing it. So are we
LRE.
providing
Oh
it?
my gosh, he will have access. Oh no, he can't be out in the general public. But you said he has access.
He does. I see it right here. This is your document. So that's very interesting. I mean, I enjoy what I do. I've only been doing this for a couple of years, but I definitely enjoy it. And what we're trying to do at Disability Rights is we're trying to put more resources out there, right? Again, collaboration, this is resources. I encourage my parents to share what we give them to with their teacher, with their principal, with whomever. All of my presentations are on Facebook, they're wherever, share the link, whatever. Like, I'm not trying to hide the ball from anybody. This is what we're looking for. And that presentation I did, I said, look, I'm not trying to encourage families to file complaints. And it's actually the opposite. It's like, how do we avoid a complaint? How do we have that conversation? And if an ARD meeting is scheduled for 15 minutes and it's an annual, probably not a good
Oh,
start.
please. Those are my favorite.
Yeah, that's probably not a good start.
High school kids that are doing transition and we've got a 15-minute slot. Well, that ain't gonna happen.
Yep. Yes.
5 minutes remaining. We did talk. You were a good influence.
And we're only on the first question, right?
I was like, I
Well, the
tried
next
to
half
go
hour
through.
we go to 2.
I was like, achievements. We did presentations.
You know, you were talking about presentations. Feel free, go into the TEA website and look at all they have there. They just redone. We have a new name, dispute resolution, and all kinds of. We're now going to be aligned with monitoring. So it's not just here's your corrective action plan and go. When the monitoring teams go out, they'll look and see if a corrective action plan was established for that district,
Mhm.
and then they're going to look into it. So that's definitely been a plus. That's just happened in the past 30 days.
That
So
is
we got-
awesome.
When you talk about resources, there's all kinds of stuff up there that I hope parents know
Yeah.
to find them.
Yes. And I always encourage, my families to, the ones who are on social media, Facebook, YouTube, like I go through all the videos that are uploaded from TEA and I'm like, oh, look, I'm learning a lot too. To me, it should be a collaboration. So prior to this, I was Social Security disability attorney. And so I would have my couch, graduating to the couch clients who are 19. I'm like, why are these kids not able to get a job or go post-secondary? So what do? I'm like, let's become a special education attorney. Let's find out what the schools are doing.
How fun.
And so now I'm like, oh, transition plans. That's interesting. Because in all of my disability cases, there were very few that had transition plans in their IEPs, or they were very like, we'll graduate and attend school.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
how?
enroll in, not that they attend, they'll enroll in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
enrolling. Yes, you're
give
right.
you my personal soapbox right now, but IDEA schools that talks about they have 100% of their kids enroll,
Mhm.
and it's like, or apply. It's like, well, that's
Mhm.
nothing, and they have self-contained units. Now, come on, I want to see how many of those kids actually go in and attend those classes.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
it's all how you word it.
absolutely.
Or what about the transition meetings where they bring in the agency and they're literally in for 2 minutes? Like, hi, I'm with TW, whatever, and here's my email and here's my number. Okay, she was here at the R. Yay.
Check,
Mhm.
sign, did not
Check.
have to stay.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably one thing the school districts do probably dislike about me being there is most of the time, unless there's a reason, I do not want anybody dismissed from the meeting. At least not that quickly, because the parents think of something later on and, oh, I wish I had asked the TWC. individual about this and what the options are, you know, what classes, you know, post-secondary, you know, those types of things. So for the most part, I like to keep who I can at the meeting. But I will let them go if I have to, but
Yeah.
but
Tell me
like at
about
least
those
for
high
a
school teachers
significant.
are like, my conference is over, I gotta go.
Mhm. Yeah, I talked to the principal. I said, hey, did we get a substitute? Because this is going to be a long meeting. Yes.
Everybody get comfortable. Did you bring snacks?
Did you know, the ones I went to in person before the pandemic, there was always donuts and coffee. They knew we were going to be there for a little bit. Sometimes I would bring the donuts just to make sure we all had a little snacky.
You know, when I retire, a parent advocate is my dream job. I would love to do that. But
yeah, I mean, it's a different perspective. I mean, you know, being an attorney on one side and then now doing special education, it's different.
well, I'm
And
tickled pink that you've got a parent in education too. So you can go home and go, Mom, is that right? Do they really tell you that?
yeah, my mom is funny because she worked in some of the school districts locally, and she's like, you know, I wasn't invited to the IEP meeting, but I'm the only teacher. I said, oh my God. First I'm like shocked. And they're like,
tell that principal.
yeah, and it's funny because my mom, she knows that she's supposed to be there. And so she refused to sign. No, I will not sign that I was at the meeting. I'm sorry.
I'm looking at the little blue box that's up there.
Oh yeah.
So in the next one, if it's just us, we'll go on to number 2.
Yes, we'll talk about the next topic.
We talked about achievements.
We talked about achievements and we talked
about
what we
resources.
saw. Mm-hmm.
Recovery and resiliency. We have no clue what's going to happen next year. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm sure.
Yep, next year is going to be a whole new thing.
How do we know if somebody enters the room? Only you know that, or?
You can see the little screen pop up. I don't know if you have us in gallery view right now, but they'll pop up like us, like a little screen.
I saw that Ruth showed up and then she disappeared.
Yeah.
It disappeared, sorry guys.
For achievements, we've had a lot of webinars with TEA as well, a lot of collaboration with
Oh, I love going to the TA webinars.
At the beginning of the pandemic. Those were fun.
Do you also participate in Region 20? In their webinars? I was a special ed director for Region 1. And those are open to anybody. It used to have to be in person, but everything's gone to webinars now. So if you don't get it at that level, you'll see more district people and get better interaction, I think, at the service center level.
Yeah, I work closely we're Region 19 here in El Paso. And so I work very closely.
Oh, I just assume you're San Antonio too.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm actually in El Paso. Like they asked me to do this.
City.
Yeah, they asked me to do these because they were like, yeah, we like the way you present, that we like the way you talk. I was like, okay, great. I'll come in from El Paso. And so a lot of my stuff is with Region 19, Region 18. And so that's why I do a lot of rural stuff, is because there's not a whole lot in this area.
Oh yeah, especially Region 18. When you give your personnel a car, because it's so far to drive, they'd rather give you a car than pay mileage.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I was just like, isn't it cheaper? Like, I don't know. I mean, because I have a lot of family in the area, so I can travel. They don't want to give me my mileage. They're like, no, we'll get you a rental
car.
I was like, but I have 2 dogs, guys.
So isn't that one of the pluses of this pandemic, that like now anybody can attend? Like we've had people from Italy attend our webinars. We've had a person from Canada.
Did you say Italy? That is so cool.
For an ADHD webinar. We're like, really? You have no resources in Italy?
Yeah.
That's strange. And someone in Canada was, we were doing like a raffle, and then they were saying, no, it's okay. Don't send me the price. I live in Canada. So it's going to cost you a lot to ship.
I don't want to
We were
win.
like, okay, never mind. US residents only.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely been a really good opportunity. It's one of the pluses of the pandemic is that I'm able to attend things internationally, to help parents whose kids are in the military or, they're transitioning back. Cause right here in El Paso is Fort Bliss. And so I have parents who are now abroad who are coming to Bliss shortly. And so, yeah, come to the webinar. Here's a link, just log on. I've had clients throughout the state at this point because, well, I can attend an ARD meeting on a Zoom.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter that you're in Houston.
Yeah, that's the way
Just
you're doing it. So
make sure that I know the time. The mountain
El
versus
Paso
central.
changes. Yes.
Yeah. Is this mountain time or central? So that's definitely a plus, is that I think we have a lot more access, a lot not businesses, but groups and projects are presenting virtually. So parents and professionals are able to attend more. They're not as crunched on, I can't get to the city or I can't get here. So no, just log on during your lunchtime if you have time and catch 20-30 minutes of it and then go back to your classroom, go back to your meetings.
Or the recording of it. I didn't
Yeah.
know. Well, here it is. Let me send you the link.
Yeah.
And you said I'm gonna have to check you out on Facebook now. I'm all curious.
I'm all over Partners Resource Network. Yeah, they're like, we're gonna
You
go on
already knew
Facebook
that
Live.
then.
And what about our special needs families? They don't have to worry about babysitting.
Yes.
All my kids are, is the organization going to provide childcare?
Mhm.
And I mean, it's a big thing, driving back home. Like, I am very involved with our local Down syndrome group, and they put end at 8:30. Well, that's really late for kiddos that have to go to school the next day. Well, now we're from home, so you can have your video off and be doing bath, bed, whatever, and still be, for me,
It's a
it's
big
like
part. Yeah.
too
Hear what's
much. I'd
going on.
rather watch the recording because I can't focus on two things.
Yeah. But you can also rewind, right? If you miss something, right? To be like, what was that? Or in a lot of my PowerPoints, I have like case law that I like to refer people to, because that's a lawyer in me. And be like, look, and there's a case, guys, pause it, screenshot it, whatever you need. So that's definitely been a plus, is I can reach people, they can reach me. Now I know how to set up a Zoom meeting. So if you want to meet face to
You're still 2
face,
steps ahead of me.
I will set up a Zoom. I will send you a Zoom link.
I will attend. I will click on your link, but I don't know if I can set it up.
Like, you want to meet face to face? Excellent. Especially our supported decision-making agreements, which is one of the things we work with our transitioning students with, is that we've been able to kind of explain and meet with families on supported decision-making agreements. We've had a couple of virtual clinics across the state. And a lot of them are high school transition age children. What do we do? Do we get a guardianship? Do we do supported decision-making? What does that look like? What are the pros and cons? So we've been able to do that in Spanish and English. And then we had one with ASL interpreting as well. So that's been really a big plus to us, is that we have attorneys across the state who can jump in the same Zoom and talk about supported decision-making agreements.
So let me ask you a question about that.
Sure.
I'm in McAllen. We got 2,100 kids, 1,000 a week coming in here without parents. When you start talking about supported decision-making, and when I was a director in Edinburgh, a lot of those kids did not have legal guardians. What do you recommend?
It kind of depends on, right, if they're able to make decisions on their own. And I mean, if they're minors, the school district still has to assign, like, for for education decisions, the school district still should be doing that. But as they're transitioning out,
I'm talking about the more severely disabled we're looking at a lifetime of needing somebody to take care of them. Parents are going to take care of them, but because of their immigration status, they can't be guardians. So we name a family member. I mean, it's one of those things that comes up at church.
Yeah, right. No,
not in my job.
Understand. Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. I don't know how best to do that, because so much of my training has been in the support decision making, and then with guardianship, I know that we advocate for it, but I don't know the legalities of it because I haven't done it, to be honest.
Well, your next presentation is going to be on that, and I want you to invite me because I want to.
Okay, very good. You know, I have an attorney, a colleague that's in the McAllen office, and she's been with disability rights for 30 years. Her name is Rosa Torres.
Rosa and I have sat in meetings side by side.
Yes. So she is the one I'd be like, hey, Rosa. She is my like, hey, what do I do with this? She is fantastic. So I will get with her and I will learn. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
most of it. And tell her Margie Barrera said.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Because she's been, you know, she's helped me kind of navigate it, because doing Social Security disability, so much of my time I would tell, okay, well, your son, daughter is 18, you need to get guardianship. You need to get guardianship. If you can't be a guardian, find somebody who can, right? Not knowing the legality of it, but that's the only way that they were able to participate in Social Security hearings, is if they were the guardian. And so we would.
So they had to name somebody. So
They have
Rosa's still working. Of course, she's probably my age, so why am I
Yes,
surprised?
she has been with DRTX for a very long time, and we work
Before it was
collaboratively.
DRTX.
Yes, when it was advocacy. Yep. Yeah, and so she and I work really well together, just across the state, right? That's on, again, Zoom. Hey, I'm going to send you a Zoom link or a Teams link. Like, can we meet to talk about this? And she provides a lot of information, because she's been on all the different teams too. When we weren't even on teams, we were just doing whatever. Now we're on education team. I was like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, so I'll get with her and we'll put something together. I'm always
Yeah,
happy to
see
do
what
presentations on that.
And you know what you need to do? It's probably too late now, but like T-Case is putting out for presentations. That'd be a perfect thing that special ed directors and teachers and parents, when you start talking about transition, how do you identify a guardian?
Yeah.
I mean, El Paso and McAllen, you don't get any better location to try and find somebody to name that.
Yeah, see, Region 19 right now has me on the books for a summer symposium, Pachanga, that they're doing to talk about guardianship and support decision making. So I'm like, I'm going to be adding this. Thank you, Miss Margie.
Yeah, thank you. And then
I'm
send
like,
me the link.
yeah, because I mean, it's such a great question, because we are being asked these things and I need to know the answer.
It used to be every once in a while, and now I'm sure it's probably 60% of it, because they are in federal custody, so these kids are going to school.
Yeah.
That'll be next year. What do we do with recovering resilience with these kids we have? San Antonio has what, 2013-year-olds or something? Did you get the teenage population?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so you have homework too.
I have homework.
Where are the immigrants at in San Antonio?
Yeah. Yeah, I know that we're looking, of course, just to see what we're trying to keep up with, where are the children, where are they? And I know, like, in a couple of the more, they're not rural, but they're smaller cities, Odessa, Pecos, those areas. I know that they have some of the unaccompanied minor facilities. And so trying to keep an eye on what's happening there without, not really
supposedly
sure.
they're moving in and out quickly, but I don't believe that's really happening.
Yeah. And that's what's concerning. I know a lot of the hotels in El Paso are now housing a lot of people and families. So trying to get a pulse on that to see what's going on, because if they're in a hotel, then are they the district's problem? Not problem, but the district's responsibility to educate. And so they can't really push it off.
Problem. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like, So we're trying to get a pulse on that, but it seems like things are changing so quickly with the unaccompanied and even any kind of migrant families. It's changing so quickly. We're just trying to hang on tight.
Yeah. And we have tent cities in Donna.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, they're laying side by side. I don't know what they're doing about it. They say they're being educated. So of course, Margie and me wants to go walk the aisles, but I will stay objective.
I mean, I'd be interested. I'm like, hey, is that
Rosa,
something I can do?
I'm coming to
no?
the valley.
I was just wanting to visit real quick, like, like, it's not a problem, like, just interested. Yeah.
We just want to see what the process is, because what you see on TV is, the top level.
Yes, absolutely.
San
so-
Antonio has, is it Freeman Coliseum? There's a
Mhm.
Coliseum.
Yeah, I think I
The
saw.
Coliseum. Mhm.
That's where they're being housed.
Yeah, that's what one of my colleagues was telling me. And I thought, oh goodness, because I lived in San Antonio. I went to college at St. Mary's. And so I was like, oh goodness, that's quite a space.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it would be better than the tents, because at least there's air
Oh.
conditioning and heat.
I agree. Yep.
We are so totally off topic now, but
But we are going to talk about resiliency.
Yeah,
recovery.
overlapping. It's education, it's immigration, and then
Mhm.
COVID too. It's like,
Yeah.
3 layers.
That's the other thing. They're not testing these kids or adults as they come in.
Mm-mm.
So, and then they put them on the bus if they have family. Some of these kids come with addresses written on their hands or whatever. So they'll
Mhm.
send them out to the family until their court date. No testing, no.
Nope. Mm-mm. Nope.
It's okay, I'm vaccinated. I'm good.
Good. Yeah. It's like, what are
All
we
about
doing?
me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I think when we're looking at like the testing and everything, I have seen in my cases and stuff, the request for more testing for everything, right? Like, are we checking, from the COVID testing to evaluations, right? These functional behavioral assessments. You're relying on data from 2 years ago prior to a pandemic. So what are we
How do
looking
you
at?
do a behavioral assessment over Zoom?
And I don't think you can, honestly.
Honestly,
But
yeah.
honestly, you can't. But the request is now there where parent is sending this child back to school. We would like a behavioral assessment sooner, rather than later. While granted, it's not the full classroom, there's not as many students and everything. This student is there, see how they're interacting, because the behavioral assessment back then said they were throwing chairs. That was a few years ago. I don't know that they throw chairs anymore based on
With
parent
mom sitting next to
observation.
me, I can't throw a chair.
Right. But also it's like, well, let's see how they interact. Some of the students, they did not want to be in virtual anymore. I mean, they would talk to me and they're, 9, 10, they're like, Miss Angel, I will do whatever. Just let me go back to school with my friends. So the kids are now a year older, they're developed, they're learning, and so it's like, all right, let's see what we can do. Let's find out what evaluations are appropriate, or if they're not appropriate right now. Sometimes they're definitely not.
Yeah, you may want a 6 months transition period, because is the behavior coming because I was at home with mom, or is the behavior coming because I truly have issues?
Yeah. And most of the districts that I've worked with, they've been willing to not do like a formal, but more of like, let's get a progress report in 6 to 9 weeks, see how they're doing, what are the issues. I have a lot of twin cases right now where it's like, now that they're at school with their sibling, they're doing better, but separate they weren't. So I thought that was interesting as well. It's just like fun little cases.
I hadn't even thought about that. And many times, if you have twins, they have disabilities depending on at what stage they were born.
Right. They're interesting little cases, but a lot of the stuff that we've been doing as far as like trying to recover what was lost, I guess, is the only way to say it is, that regression is, a lot of the school districts have been implementing summer programs to try to bridge that gap, provide additional services. Is it academics? Is it functional needs? Those types of things. And that's how we've been working with the community to say, okay, how can we help recover, add additional, without the official term of compensatory services, but let's compensate for what has been missed.
The term I wonder about is extended school year. We're not giving EYS services anymore. We're giving, well, everybody's going to go to summer school, and some kids need more than that. And it's not just in the summer, but I'm not seeing it even offered. Well, because parents are happy with summer school. Okay. They don't understand the difference.
Yeah.
And if districts were smart, summer school comes, EYS comes with money.
Yeah.
So you can get reimbursed by the state. Go for it, people.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of our art meetings, right? It's kind of art season for us that it's like, let's talk about extended school year.
Mhm.
How can we utilize that? The ones that are, again, kind of difficult are the parents and the students who still are virtual. Is ESY going to be any better?
And would it help any? Yeah.
Right. Or is it really more geared towards, okay, the student is returning to in person. Now they need to recover. They need to get that progress that they've regressed on in person, extended school year. This is what they need to be. So we've had to have that conversation with parents as well of, if you're going to keep them virtual, are they going to regain anything if the issue is they're virtual? So we have to kind of find that balance as well.
So if districts get reimbursed for ESY, then what is the hesitation of giving it to kids?
They have to meet the criterion of they've already mastered, and they may be in what's the word, that they may, but regression may still occur if they've mastered it. And districts don't want to admit that kids lose skills.
Mhm.
It reflects back on them. Or they didn't get the mastery. So it used to be TA came down really hard on the districts, and I'm going to say 20 years ago, when everybody was ESY and they were summer school programs and everybody went. It's like, hold on, it's not just that kids need continual education, it's what did they learn that they may lose. And districts have a hard time identifying that.
Mhm.
I don't know what the kickback is, because that's what kids need, but they have to have shown mastery. So now you have another tool in your belt the next art meeting you go to.
I know they always say, well, they didn't show a regression during winter break or Thanksgiving break or spring break. Well, yeah, those are very short breaks compared to a summer, summer break is 3 months.
But show me what they mastered and how they're doing on it right now. Because they just give you this blanket regression.
Mhm. I think sometimes it comes into, data. Are they keeping the data that they should?
That's exactly what it is.
And so it's, because I've been in an art meeting where it's like, well, we didn't see any regression. And I was like, okay, what break are we talking about? Oh, the 3-day weekend. Okay, what kind of data are we looking at? Let's start there. And so we, instead of asking for ESY services, we were saying, okay, we want to see the data reports, the testing, the beginning of the year, end of the year, because we think that there's been regression based on what parents sees. But again, it all comes down to the data. Have you been keeping any data? Can we see that? And
something beyond progress reports to say
Correct.
Continue or mastered.
Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the times it comes down to the data. And that's, I think, where the school's hesitation is if they're asked to present the data, they don't have the data. So it's easier just to say no.
Yeah, what she says is really true. That's the kickback. Oh my gosh, I was supposed to have something to show you, wasn't I?
Mm-hmm. It's like, show me the progress, show me that there wasn't regression. But we do our best.
We didn't see it.
Yes.
Yeah, see.
Yes.
That's one of those recovery things we need to look at. Is it going to be summer school? Is it going to be ESY?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the school districts right now, they've given the pushback on ESY because there wasn't the data to support it, but they are giving, and it's only for special education, like they're providing additional services in the summer. Specifically, which goals are we trying to assist with progress on? And they're putting it in that way. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but they're asking for functional versus academic and which ones, and parents like all of them. Everything. It's a 3-week program. Fix it. Like, fix it.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Pamela. I'm definitely new. I'm a parent of a 19-year-old who's on the spectrum, and recently retired Army, almost a year. Aaron and I and the rest of the family have moved all over, back and forth multiple times. This is our 4th time in San Antonio. And first, I want to say this is the first time I've heard of ATC and resources. So I think that this is interesting because, again, 4th time, we've been to multiple ABA therapists, EFMP on post, general therapists, and others, and just never came across you guys. He is now 19, graduated high school. So all the things that the other person is talking about, we struggled through multiple locations. Much, much better here in San Antonio, although there is room for improvement. And I'll have a question about what you guys were just talking about. But now that Aaron is, he graduated from Still High School last year.
Tell me about Aaron's transition plan. What did he graduate to?
What do you mean, what did he graduate to?
What is he doing after high school?
Yeah, good. So we are looking at getting him in the Project Access program at Palo Alto College, which is also something that I just happened to stumble upon. And he is very excited about that. We had an initial interview this morning with Cindy Morgan, and then he has another interview on Thursday with the instructors of the program. And I have a couple of questions for you guys, but do you guys know of any other programs like Project Access in the San Antonio area?
I am not a San Antonio person, so my eyeballs are on Miss Diaz right now.
I'm in San Antonio,
Okay.
but that is the only project that I know of here. Locally.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you
Because,
checked out with the disability person at each of the universities? You have? UTSA,
Universities.
A&M's in San Antonio.
Yeah, I think what our plan is, we're going to see how, see how he does with this program. He's really excited and wants to go. But
That's half the battle. Yeah.
That is half the battle, right? Because that's as much as he wants to, he's still going to be very stressed about it, right? And everything else that comes along, with someone on the spectrum. And so after that, and during it, we'll look at what other programs, what other colleges and universities, what programs they have, if he wants to continue, because they get a certificate of, is it administration for administration, office administration, which is good. One of the things that I have learned, because again, we've struggled through this, not being able to find the resources from state to state that I've been stationed in, is that what I have found, especially over the last couple of years, and I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, is that when he turned 18, it was like, people forgot or thought he was magically cured, right? I have found that there are very little resources for adults on the spectrum. And so it had been a struggle to get the resources that he needs after turning 18. Although I do have a medical power of attorney, having established guardianship, because I do want him to be on his own as much as possible, right? But that's what I have found over the last 2 years. He'll be 20 next month.
I want you to write down this website, transitionintexas.org. And that will take you to links of university level, of community level, of other states. I've looked at the Virginia stuff there. And just give you some people to contact to help you with that. The person at TEA who's in charge of that is named Susie May. who actually has moved from San Antonio to be part of that in Austin. So she probably is pretty knowledgeable about what's happening in San Antonio too. But they've really been pushing transitionintexas.org.
Okay, fantastic. All right, that's great.
And you're not moving anymore. You're here in San Antonio.
We're not moving. I'm retired. So. or at least we're not moving yet. We still have that fever of moving every year and a half to 2 years. So the last 10, 12 years, that's how often it was. But we're saying,
so you kept your boxes just in case.
Of course. I'm still unpacking.
And then one of the things I wanted to tell you about is that if he does decide to continue with post-secondary with Disability Rights Texas, we have like a team that does post-secondary, helping navigate post-secondary and getting in contact with the, it depends on the school, but like the student with disabilities office and getting those accommodations. And granted, they're not the same as IDEA, right? They're not the same accommodations, but they work with post-secondary students, supported decision-making agreements. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but we work on those as well. It's an alternative to guardianship. So you were talking about, wanting to support without, taking, full guardianship. So supported decision-making agreements essentially allow for the individual with a disability to choose a supporter, a parent, or multiple people to help make decisions. They sign, a HIPAA or whatnot, so you can go into the doctor with them, or, for FERPA, for education decisions. And it's a contract between the person with a disability and their supporter to allow for that assistance, but leaving the decision-making power in the individual with a disability, but developing those skills to make decisions. We all need assistance, right? We all have to learn how to make good decisions or bad decisions, right? So that's one of the other things that we work on at Disability Rights Texas, is supported decision-making agreements.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
wonderful.
Yeah, so I would encourage you to go to our website also, just to kind of get some information. It's all free. We're a nonprofit organization, so it's free to kind of get information for post-secondary work, if workforce assistance with that as well. So we have a lot of resources. Hopefully they're helpful.
I'm sure it's unfortunate it's taken so long to find you guys. It's just
that's true. That's an eye-opener to me.
Which leads to, how do we get messages out to areas, like the community, like the EFMP offices on post, so that they have that information, and not just here in San Antonio, but throughout Texas, because I was also at Fort Hood. And so true story, I called the EFP office asking for resources. We were struggling, came across an ABA place that just wasn't a good fit for him. And the person told me, "I'm so sorry. We really don't know." Right. So it truly has been a struggle over the last 10 years when we found out, when he was diagnosed. Because it has taken a long time to find the resources for him. Schools, I have to admit, still high school did so fantastic with Aaron this past year. The special education department was fantastic. The teacher, they were all just really, really good. We met numerous times, reviewed his accommodations and adjusted IP as needed and things like that. They were just phenomenal.
And what high school was that?
That's still high school in Cibolo.
I like to pass along the positive when I hear it, so I got to make sure I get that right.
Yeah. And we were talking about getting, especially, I'm in El Paso, so I have Fort Bliss here. That's my group here. And so I've developed a relationship with them, but I hear a lot of the same things that you're, sharing is you move from one place to another, and where are the resources and how do we get that information out? And so I've been working with them. It's a little hard to get the resources out to military families, because there's a lot of red tape that you have to go through just to do
They
a
have to go
presentation.
through. Yeah, and
Um,
it's building those relationships with them and hoping that whoever is in that EF&P office is there for a while
mhm.
and they're able to pass that information on.
Yeah.
We had over in Killeen, the worst experience we had ever had. I had to pull them out of school
Yeah,
and do homeschooling.
yeah.
Tell me what EF&P stands for.
Exceptional
not-
Family Member Program.
Okay. And
Yeah.
TEA also has a military connections under our special programs. And there is a person who works directly with, and you don't even have to have a disability. You're in the military, you need help with getting your resources. So I don't know how we get that information out to people, but now you're tagged with the people you run into, try TEA and the military connections person.
Yeah, and the military connection, it was, they did some revamping, because I ended up having a talk with the director over at the school board. I forget her name, the doctor there, because that's how bad it was. Their staff weren't trained. They didn't have the right people in the classrooms. The following year, they had developed a training program and for the staff for more education and how to teach and manage students with disabilities, specifically on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely our biggest challenge in our Army career when it comes to education over in Killeen.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that like I've been trying to work on, is to see, how can we get, the highly mobile military, right? You're going to go from one to another and stuff like that. And so I'll try to see how we can help with that, because you're not the first to tell me, the military, you're moved. Where do I find the resources, right? And so a lot of the stuff is we are trying to update our website as well and put out more videos and put out YouTubes and that type of thing that we share on our Facebook. I share on my personal Facebook because I know people in the military. I'm like, please share, thank you. But yeah, definitely utilization of, our websites. The TA website is fantastic. I link to that all of the time in my videos and stuff as well. And just share.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Boy, we came right under the wire of that one, because they're going to close our
They're
room.
about to pull us back in. About to pull us into the main group, I think.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sure. Yay, we made our dollars tonight.
We did it.
Earned our paycheck.
And I was like, look, there's my website.
And I'm looking at you going, I should have put up the TEA, but next time.
My supervisor was like, hey, we made this. And I was like, that's perfect. Because sometimes like in a presentation, I get so wrapped up. I'm like, hey, what's your website?
Especially when you don't have handouts. I used
Yes.
to always have it on the handout but those days are gone.
Yeah,
We are saving so many trees by being on Zoom.
that we are. But I have so many links in my folders. Thank goodness for the cloud.
Yeah. The unlimited cloud.
Yeah.
50.
I'll see you on the main room, guys.
Let's go
Oh,
back.
I'm supposed to click on leave breakout.